Welcome to the Sassy Creative podcast. I'm your host, Katherine Hampton. I started my own handmade business as a hobby in 2013. After hours and hours of research and trial and error, I was able to grow my own handmade business from a hobby into a full-time income that now supports my family. My goal is to help you implement those same strategies that I use in my business so that you can skip the stress and get straight to success. Now let's get started. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Sassy Creative. I'm your host, Katherine Hampton. I'm so glad you're here because today we're going to discuss the importance of adaptation and how that's relevant in your business. Your willingness to adapt, it correlates with the sustainability of your business. And I was actually originally going to title this episode Adapt or Die, but when I was talking it over with my husband, kind of what I was going to talk about today, he told me it was too harsh, so I didn't want to scare anybody off, and I went with a different title. But it really is the harsh reality of business. You must be willing to adapt, or your business is ultimately going to die. So first, let's go over the definition of adaptation. Adaptation is defined as a change or process of change by which an organism or species becomes better suited to its environment. So for the purpose of this conversation, that organism or species is your handmade business. And the environment includes everything from the economy, your target audience, customer expectations, social media changes, marketing strategies, literally everything that goes into sustaining your business. And the world as a whole, it's constantly changing. So let's think about it. Just 15 to 20 years ago, it sounded like we were signaling NASA to connect to the internet. You paid for text messages per text. And forget about paying for text. I was having to beg for a cell phone at 17. And now 10-year-olds on my street, like literally every 10-year-old on my street, is racing down the road on a scooter with an iPhone in their hand. So things have changed. And now we carry around a computer in our hands or even on our wrist as a watch. And consumers expect text message data to be unlimited. They want to send 1 million text messages a day. And now, back then all the rage was with, satellite TVs. Now people are getting rid of those services like Dish and DirecTV for options like Hulu and Netflix. So those are just a few examples of big changes in just a short period of time. And changes like this happen in all industries across the board. No matter what you're doing, there's going to be changes over time. Consumers want things better and they want them faster. We have tons and tons of information at our fingertips, and it gets to us in the blink of an eye, which also allows our consumers to be better informed about their purchases and their options, or better yet, your competitors. So it's much harder to have choices when you're limited to, say, just walking around the mall. But when the buyer can search online and have hundreds of shops to choose from, you as the seller, you really have to step up your game. And the best way that you can do that is by adapting to the market. You have to keep your finger on the pulse of your market. And just to kind of start thinking about it, the very basic question to ask yourself is, what is it that my customers expect? But I really do want you to take it a step further. What could you do to exceed their expectations and provide insane quality for them so that they become raving fans? Are you staying on top of the latest trends? Are you changing your materials as the consumer demands change, as they decide that they like something better than, maybe what you were selling previously? So, for instance, in my industry, when I started selling 5 years ago, vinyl on shirts was super popular. I couldn't make them fast enough. Then the next trend was glitter vinyl on shirts. Everybody wanted everything in glitter, and then that moved on to pattern vinyl on shirts. Now, here we are, 5 years later, customers have learned about sublimation and screen printing, so vinyl on shirts, it's really not as popular. As a new technology, became available and new products were introduced to the market, customers have moved away from vinyl on shirts and towards, sublimation and screen printing. And, there may be a few outliers, but for the most part, the shirt shops that have kept the sales numbers consistent have made that switch to meet customer demands. And I'm sure no matter what industry you're in, there's similar examples. So as techniques get perfected, as new tools are developed, and as customers are exposed to new products, the consumer expectation changes. You, as a seller who wants to be in business for a really long time and have a dedicated fan base, you have to rise to meet that expectation. Or, unfortunately, customers are going to go somewhere else where they can find the newest, greatest, latest, best thing. So there have been multiple times while running my business that I've, changed materials, changed the programs that I use, or the technology that I use to make my products. If I was still making the same things in the same way that I was in 2015, I would very likely be out of business. My customers wouldn't be interested in coming back. So the industry has grown and changed, and my business grew and changed with it. And not only is it important to adapt your materials and techniques, it's important to continue to make new products and new designs. So, if nothing else, adding new product lines keeps your audience engaged because they're excited to see new products. But let's say you go a really long time without adding anything new, without, keeping up with the trends, finding something else to add to your shop. Once those customers have decided that, you don't really add anything new and it's always the same old, then they stop looking and they move, onto something else and go somewhere else. So unless we're talking like, life necessities like groceries, most people are looking for something new every time they go into a store. They may not buy this time, but they know that they can expect to see new things every time. So then they'll go in and look at it in a couple weeks or a couple months. So they expect to see a variety and new options. They don't want to go back to Tiffany's and buy the same bracelet every year for 10 years. Now, I'm not saying that you have to add new products every single day or every single week. Personally, I think that, once a quarter should be the bare absolute minimum. But, that's based on your market. You may need to do something else. You may need to release product lines monthly. If you're a shop that customers, use up your product and need to order replacements frequently, that may require you to release new product lines on a more frequent basis. This is where consumer research is super important. Researching your target audience and knowing what they expect from the places they shop is what will make and break a store. So if you are just, in this to into your business just to post a few products, make something and sell it and have no interest in really getting to know your audience, the likelihood of building a lifelong business, I hate to say this to you, but it's slim to none. Because without really getting to know that audience, everything is made and listed for sale on a hope and a dream. But when you really know your audience, you know what they want, and you can make things accordingly. Making things on a hope and a dream and just crossing your fingers and hoping that they sell, that somebody out there is going to like it, is not a sustainable long-term plan. Now, there may be a few misses along the way. That happens to the best of us. But when you've researched your audience, more often than not, you will be able to stay up to date with the trends and the changes in the market so that no matter what you list, it sells. a great way to do this and kind of stay up to date with people, because as handmade entrepreneurs, as solopreneurs, a lot of us are isolated. We're not getting out and interacting with a lot of people on a frequent basis. So joining Facebook groups where your target market is hanging out, your target audience hangs out, is a great way to get feedback about what people are looking for. You could also, walk to the mall to look for common themes and patterns that you may notice between the stores. I joke all the time that now that I've become an entrepreneur, I see the world in patterns, colors, themes. I'm always looking at things through those lenses. But it's so important that you can recognize and understand what customers are looking for. Then you take those patterns, those colors, those themes that you see throughout those stores, and you adapt them to your products. Now, maybe you prefer to browse online, or going to the mall isn't an option. Just pick the stores that your target audience likes and look at their products online. Personally, I just like seeing their window displays, because that's where they really put thought into what is going, to be eye-catching. So that's what they consider to be the most just on trend for the season and the most likely to pull customers in to come in there to go shopping. So use that information that these companies have paid thousands of dollars for. Use that to your advantage. You also have to keep in mind that customers are exposed to marketing in some form from stores, shops, whatever you want to call them, all day long. Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, you name it. Someone is trying to sell them something. So like it or not, you are a business person. You are a marketer. You have to join in on the marketing game too. This is a non-negotiable piece. Now, a few years ago, marketing on social media really wasn't near as important as it is now. But as more people decide to, kind of try their hand at selling online, you've got to do it if you want to push your way to the front of the line. You can make a stellar, out of this world product, but if no one knows about it, you're not going to sell a dang thing. So you've got to be willing to put yourself out there and market. It's just part of it. And, as a handmade seller, hiring a huge marketing team, it's not usually feasible for us. That's not something that a lot of us can afford, to hire 6 people, someone to handle every platform and be posting for us all day long. So try not to get bogged down with the feeling like you need to do all the things. The first thing to figure out, the right where you want to start, is figuring out where your audience hangs out the most. Where is your audience spending most of their time? If you sell to a younger crowd that is typically hanging out on Instagram or Snapchat, then there isn't really a good reason to be focusing your energy on Facebook. So just kind of keep that in mind. You don't have to do everything. Just focus on where it makes the most sense for your customers. You're not trying to get everybody. You're trying to build a long-term audience of raving fans. But marketing is essential. In, this vast world of online selling, you have to tell customers who you are, where to find you, how to buy from you. This is just part of learning to adapt. Customers, they want to interact with you. This age of social media and buying online, they want to interact with the brand. Now, if you are just absolutely just strapped for time, you're saying, Catherine, I can't take on another thing. What do I have to do? I personally recommend that at the bare minimum, you develop a Pinterest and an email list strategy. Those are the two strategies that at least can be working for you without requiring constant attention. I've also talked about how, in the past, I work with Instagram micro influencers from time to time to help build up my social proof and get my products in front of a new audience, this is another great way for you to get your name out without having to spend a ton of money on ads. You're getting your product in front of your market, and the marketing is, much more targeted than trusting Facebook or Instagram to hopefully get your ads where you want them. So you're getting your product in front of your market, and the market is extremely targeted by focusing on which influencer you want to take a picture of your product. But really, the most important thing is to decide where and how you're going to market and do your best to show up consistently. I will be the first to tell you that I'm not great at the consistency part when it comes to marketing on social media. I'm exceptionally bad during fourth quarter. I have put a plan together and, made graphics ahead of time this year to hopefully prevent me from just dropping off the face of the earth this year. But we all have areas that we struggle with. And knowing that my social media strategy is not always top notch, I'm willing to pay more for ads to drive traffic that way. So I look at it as you either have to pay with your time or your money. And sometimes there's just not enough time at the end of the day, so money it is. Those are just, you've got to do one or the other, but you can't just make things and then expect it to sell without doing any sort of advertising. So you can't decide to be a maker only and expect your business to thrive. You have to become a researcher and a marketer too. Yes, you can make beautiful products, and once you decide that you're going from crafter to entrepreneur, it's a whole new ballgame. Running a business is complex, and the adaptability piece is crucial to longevity in your market. You have to be willing to adapt for customer expectations, for market expectations, social media expectations. You have to be willing to adapt. So I hope that this episode gave you some food for thought about ways to keep adapting in your business so that you can continue to grow and that you don't accidentally hinder your own success by refusing to adapt. I look forward to talking to you next week. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at thesassycreative.com. I will talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now, it's no secret that starting a business can be super overwhelming. I appreciate that you trust me enough to listen to my advice, and I want to help you on your path to success. If you would like to receive more tips and strategies from me straight to your inbox, I would love for you to become a Business Bestie at bit.ly/Sassy Besties, and it's completely free to join. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. I will talk to you next time. Bye!
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.